Hello crafter friends, this is Julia Fair in Fair's Craft Lair, and I am coming to you today. My phone I didn't put on silent, so it might be beeping or chirping as it does. Sorry. So anyway, I'm coming to you today instead of Friday because I've been finding that there are some issues that kind of crop up and keep me from doing the best job that I can for my live videos on Fridays. So I'd rather do them for you on Tuesdays and be able to do a little bit better job, and they'll still be available for everybody to see. So I'm just giving you a heads up there. This week we are working with Stampin Blends, and this was my card yesterday. And the blends are the alcohol-based markers. I really like them. I love being able to color. I wish I could do more coloring all the time, but that's really not, as far as for me, it's not feasible all the time. So I'm going to see if I can maybe, yes, I'm turning my volume off. Sorry about that. Because my phone is going to keep buzzing. Otherwise, I think my family decided to do a group chat right now. But I love these blends, but I do need quick and easy cards on a regular basis. But if you are somebody who likes coloring or likes being able to do something special once in a while, or you really like coloring techniques, these are definitely the way to go. So the card yesterday included Granny Apple Green, Flirty Flamingo, and Highland Heather. So those are the three colors on the card. I'm going to do something similar to this today. But I'm not going to be using this stamp because I want to show you with another one so that you just have an example and give you some different ideas. And of course, because I don't ever like doing something exactly the same way twice. So then we have the little bunny, but that stamp set was, I should tell you what that stamp set was. This one was All That You Are. All right, and this one is from Fable Friends. And I have a hard time with animals sometimes. They end up not looking quite right for me. But this is really adorable. This whole stamp set with Fable Friends is really cute. So I'm going to color our bunny today to give you an idea of how to work with some shading. But I am going to use some slightly different colors. So this is the Fable Friends stamp set. And I normally, animals are not necessarily, or cutesy little animals are cartoonish, tend to not be something that I gravitate towards as much, but I'm finding that I'm doing it a little bit more lately, so that's kind of, yeah, we'll see about that. But this bunny reminds me of my sister's stuffed animal from when she was a child, so it's kind of this ended up being a sentimental stamp set for me specifically because of that bunny. So we'll color him today. But the stamp set that I'm coloring otherwise is going to be the Humming Along. And I'm not going to be finishing these cards for you, but I am going to finish a card with one of these two images for tomorrow. So make sure you're checking back on my blog tomorrow for more information. And of course, if you're looking for a demonstrator, I would be very happy to have you shop with me. I have information on my blog, and yeah, so let me know if you are interested or if you have any questions. I'm always here to help and very happy to. So without further ado, let's get to our coloring today. All right, so you'll notice I have a piece of grid paper down. You always want to protect your surface, your work surface. I also am much closer up than I normally am, and that is simply because I want you to be able to see the coloring techniques as best as possible. Okay, so I'm going to try to color on a diagonal here so that you can see, and I can see a little bit of what's going on as far as what's on my screen. So hopefully it shows up pretty well for you. So I have ivory and bronze, and the colors that I used before in place of these were the crumb cake. I used crumb cake on his body last time, and then I also used Highland Heather, and I'm going to substitute Daffodil Delight for that today. I'm going to use Petal Pink, and I had used the light Flirty Flamingo on his ears. And then I also have my color lifter in case I need it. All right, so tomorrow's blog has some good information about Color Lifter, but I want to just make a note that you guys really should read my blog this week if you have not done so already. I have tons of information on how to go about using these fabulous markers. So I'm going to start with the Petal Pink, and this is the dark Petal Pink because Petal Pink is actually quite light anyway. And I'm going to color his ears. And then I'm going to color his nose. Just a little bit, and the buttons. Right? So that's all I'm coloring with that one. That's the easy part. Pretty easy. Okay, the next part that I'm going to go do is his body. And I'm going to start with the ears. And this is actually really good color to kind of blend together. Look at how close. I haven't really used the ivory much, but look at how close it is in color to the Petal Pink. It's very, very close. And because of that, it's actually going to blend really well. Colors that are very close to one another blend really, really well. So I tend to work with analogous colors or colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So I'll show you that a little bit with the pink and purple. So I'm overlapping on the nose just a little bit at the top to blend that in. And then I'm going to color his hands, and I'm going to stop because I want that ink to stay active while I go for the next one, which is the bronze. And I'm going to do the bronze a little bit on his forehead, little tufts are, and a little bit just around his chin. Okay, and a little bit on the base of the hands, like that. And now you can see those are all, there's lines there. So I want to go back over that when the ink is still active so that it blends it out better. Okay? And I'm just going over the edge of where those are as best as I can. This ivory will continue to build color as I do that. So if I want to make sure that there aren't any lines, I'm going to have to make sure I kind of go over some of the other spots again too. I want his ears to stay light, so I'm not going to focus too much on those. These are alcohol-based markers if you haven't worked with them before. They're very similar to like Spectrum Noir. There's some other great ones out there I haven't worked with. And I really can't tell you about them. I have been waiting for Stampin' Up to come out with these because this is what I wanted to buy. I love their products. They work so well. So I really wanted to make sure that I just waited until they had it down and it was ready to go so that I could actually use them full on for my business and everything. I'm going over those little shading lines a little bit more because I want that ink to stay active. And now that's where I'm going to, that's kind of like the crease of where his legs are and then his little feet. Alright, and I'm going to go down at the bottom a little bit here, like that. And maybe just a tiny bit under the edge of his shirt, like that. Okay? Because that's where the shadows would naturally fall. These are some things that tend to be a little harder to explain on a blog. You really need a video in order to do that. So that's why I wanted to make sure I got a good video in for you guys. So I'm going over this with the light. I always do my blending with the light because the light one will actually add a lot of depth anyway. You see how much variation there is. This is only colored once, and then this is colored twice on the edges, and it's quite a bit darker already. So I don't want to do too much, but I want to keep blending, going over that spot where there are lines because you don't want the lines. And now I'm going to go over the middle part just one more time to fill that in. Keep that color a little bit more active. It's going to keep blending for a little bit, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. There we go. Until those lines start to disappear, then you're done. Alright, so that's how I color the body. The next part that I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the dark yellow for this and line the bottom edge of the shirt and around the elbows. And also up where the buttons are, kind of, again, where the shadows would naturally fall. Okay, that's going to be the dark. And now I'm just going to go over this again with the light and make sure I'm blending as best I can. And making sure I'm not covering up those petal pink buttons. And I'm actually going to try to stay away from them a little bit more, because if the ink does bleed, it tends to bleed into the spaces where there's less ink. So it'll want to go in there. I try to blend away from the lines because that helps also to create a more seamless look. And there we go. So that's our little bunny. Yay! Cute little bunny. Aw, he's adorable. I love him, whatever colors you end up doing. I did him in purple before, but I thought that some yellow, bright yellow, sunshine would be great. So, so that's how I colored the little bunny. You could do that with whatever colors you would like to. I just stick with, do the standard shading, which means that you're using the two blends that are intended to go together in order to shade, to create that depth. Okay, so that's the way that they're intended to be used. That's the way that it works really well. All right, so, and of course I have this paper down underneath because they are alcohol. They do bleed. They go through the paper. And I did stamp this with Memento, which is a water-based ink, which means it's not going to be affected as much as if I used an alcohol-based ink. It would be really, really hard to keep that from bleeding. All right, so now I'm going to do something a little bit more fancy. We're going to color this flower, and I'm gonna, this is a test for me on camera. These two colors, I'm going to be using them on the flower itself, and they're a little farther apart in the color spectrum. So I'm going to show you how I work with that, and we'll see how they blend. On the other card, I did end up using the Highland Heather and the Flirty Flamingo together. And you can see where they overlapped, and they did actually blend together pretty well. It's not perfect, but it is definitely close, and close enough for me. I don't recommend that for everybody, especially when you're just starting working out, and you definitely want to test things. But I'm testing on a paper that I just stamped on, and I'm doing a tutorial on how I actually go about doing this coloring for you guys. So if this doesn't turn out for me, I'm not going to be that upset, but I am going to show you the techniques that I use in order to attain the color blending across colors. But these are not necessarily analogous. This is Lovely Lipstick and Pineapple Punch. If I was going to use analogous colors, I'd be using an orange with this, you know, something that's in between these two colors. But these are, you know, triad colors, which means they're also primary, which means they're a third away on the color wheel compared to one another. I also have Call Me Clover here, so I'm going with in colors today for this one. And I'm going to start with coloring the bottom of the flower, okay? And I may actually, I get to show you how I fix things a little bit. Actually, I'm going to like the darker color of this, so I may just go over it with the dark to begin with. Yeah, I want that color for the stem. All right, some simple little veining there, and now I'm going to go back over it again. Go back over the leaf. And again, I'm focusing on blending out that dark color and building up extra pigment. I'll go back over it a little bit more to fill in those gaps, kind of staying away from the edges, trying to not color on the line as much. If you keep going and going, it will eventually bleed your ink. It's just whatever you stamped it. It's a fact of life. Okay. So just be aware of that. I think I'm going to do the middle. This guy with the really, really bright, dark. we're going to go into the light, lovely lipstick. And just keep going over this and over this and over this until those lines kind of disappear. Alright, did that. I'm going to color this bottom section with that light one also because that's where the color is coming from. The petals come from that middle, so I want it to show that color as well. Alright, and now I'm going to skip to the outside. I'm going to do the outside edge with this bright yellow. And I did tell you to work in small sections. I did blend that entire middle together already, which is a small section for me. And so now I'm going over these petals a little bit. I got a little bit outside the lines there. That's okay too. All right. And now I'm going to go back over this. You see I'm kind of going back and forth and working. I'm not sticking with one of these because I have all of them active at the same time. I'm going to be moving around a bit. And that's in order to make sure that I blend them all really, really well. I'm going to bring that right down to the pink. Now this may not blend as much as I want it to, and that's okay. Got those yellow lines quite seamless. That's really good. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up these shading lines and just go over them a little bit like that. And maybe just a bit on the edges of the petal. We're already colored a little bit like that. Okay, so that's going to pull that color in. Now, I am purposely going over this with the lighter one. And I can write off to make sure that I'm not picking up any additional color that I don't want. But generally, I've been finding that they don't really blend on the marker. So I don't have a problem with it picking up the color. What I have a problem with then is if they're actually blending appropriately or not. So I haven't had any issues with me ruining my markers. Now, I would not recommend like taking black and trying to, let's use, Daffodil Delight, the light one, and try to mix it with black. No, that's probably not a smart idea. These are still, I'm using the light Lovely lipstick with the light Daffodil Delight. And I may actually have wanted to do it the other way around where I was using the dark Daffodil Delight. But this is actually, it's not that bad. It's actually working pretty well. See how that's kind of blending together? It's just taking a bit longer. Okay, and you just want to make sure you keep it all active. And then it's blending over that, which is really good too. What I could do, it's quite wet right now, which means I can even just kind of do some little dots to build up some of the color a little bit more. And it's actually going to be a little bit more seamless than what I was anticipating, so that's pretty cool. All right, so you can see I'm building with that. I could do some fun and maybe kind of come on the edges here a little bit. Okay. And then go back over that with a dark, and that would look, we'll see how that looks. That's going to be pretty cool. All right. The dark Daffodil Delight. Let's do the dark along the edges. Again, I'm going to try to stay away from the actual lines itself. And I really like this. I like being able to blend the colors and make new colors too. So this is actually kind of making an orange on camera and on the paper. So I really like that. I've done it with the yellow and blue, like Bermuda Bay and Daffodil Delight as well. So it just depends. We're using yellow. It tends to be easier to blend with a dark yellow or a bright yellow. And then like a lighter blue. But you'll get some really cool effects with that. And I know some people will probably look at me and go, "What are you doing?" I'm showing you the far reaches of how blends can work. So, I definitely be testing these kind of things before you go doing it on a project 100%. I don't recommend that people just, I'm going right over it with the dark again, just to pull that color in better. I'm testing it for you and I'm showing you what works for me. So in my mind, don't be afraid to do some of this, what I'm doing. If you have a question, you can always shoot me a message and ask, "Hey, would you maybe color this color with this color?" And I'll gladly share with you whether or not I would think that would be doable or not. Or if I've had experience with that. Generally speaking, you just want to make sure that your markers aren't picking up color. And again, I haven't had any problems with my markers picking up color. But that's also to say you don't want to go super extremes, all right? So staying away from crazy extremes is going to be really helpful for that. Okay, I'm going to go back over it with the light one more time just to kind of fill in and make sure that those colors are blending well together. This is not a perfect blend. You will see some lines with this because it is such a variation or such a variance in color. But you will see it still is going to fade it and it's still going to blend quite well, and that'll keep going for a little bit. And I'm actually really curious to see when it's all said and done how well it's going to look, because this is pretty awesome. I just love being able to see how the colors work together. It's so cool. All right, so I'm going to do a little bit of the green, the light green in here. I have to be really careful about that, and a little bit of light green here. And I'm going to go over it with the yellow, the dark yellow. So it looks like it's meant to be there then. All right, so I'll check back with that and see how it's doing in a little bit, but you can see that's pretty awesome. And even where I dotted it, it's, kind of bleeding together, fading together, and it looks really cool. And there's not a whole lot of really harsh lines on this, which is the whole point of that. So depending on what you'd like to do, it's, it can be really fun to try some things with that. So I am going to use the color lifter, though, to kind of go around this edge here. And if you notice, I'm going to kind of push. I'm kind of starting away from where I want the color and kind of pushing it in. And what that does, this is the same alcohol base, but it also lifts the color. So it kind of floods your paper, and it will make things bleed out. So you want to start off of it and push it in the direction you want it to go. I want my ink to go back into my project or back into my coloring. So I'm starting away from it and pushing that direction. Okay, now I'm doing this with the yellow because I know the yellow, the pineapple punch will behave. But if I were to do that with like the pink right now, it would start, you know, bleeding more. It's really easy to mask a light color versus a really bright color, and especially a red. If you want to try to push a red back into its place, I would recommend waiting until it's completely dry. And you may not have 100% success because those colors are really rich in pigment, and it's not necessarily, that's not what the color lifter is intended for, but it will make things lighter, which is cool. So I could also very easily kind of go over some of these and kind of lighten the edges of where this color off again. And it'll start lightening that. It'll start lightening the colors there. So that's another way. If you want them to blend a little bit differently and you want to pick something up, you use the color lifter and it'll start lightening it. So you can't see that very much on here. I'd have to work with it quite a bit more because I put a ton of pigment down on this right now. It's really saturated. Really, really saturated. I'm sure, actually I'm surprised it didn't bleed through. Okay. All right, so this next technique, moving on to the hummingbird. This technique is for people who are a little bit more unsteady, but you still want to be able to do some coloring. So I'm going to this is not necessarily a blending technique, okay? I mean, I can, but I'm not going to focus on that right now. I'm going to show you a way how, if you have customers, or if you're somebody with a little bit more of an unsteady hand, I really want to make sure that you guys get some ways on how to color. So instead of trying to focus, if people get shaky, you can hold it more like a brush and use a sweeping motion, okay? And actually, one of Stampin' Up's employees shared this technique at the last on stage, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And I love the fact that I could help people be able to do more at their ability levels. So I am going to blend it a little bit. You just have to change where your position is. Okay, and now I'm actually going to move into, that was Granny Apple Green, and now I'm going to move into Flirty Flamingo, and I'm going to show you why I'm doing these colors specifically. I don't necessarily want those to blend down there. I'm just making those colors line up really good, okay? And it doesn't matter if I'm going off the project. I don't have the framelits for this, but there are framelits for this. And that's one of the big reasons why this technique is really good for if you have framelits, because once somebody has colored this, they can go to a Big Shot and cut this out. And is it going to matter that there's any edges colored? No, it's not going to matter at all. So it's a really cool way to be able to have an ability to use the blends for somebody who may not be able to color as cleanly as they would like. Okay, so so I have colored that. I don't have the framelits, so I'm actually going to fussy cut him out, this little guy, the hummingbird. But you can see I did it with pink and green. And the big reason why I want to do that is because I have that awesome tropical paper pack, and I really want to use that with this hummingbird. I thought it would be really good. So I'm hoping to feature this guy on my blog tomorrow. But if I don't get to it, make sure you check back, because I am going to use him this week and be able to show you guys what what this would look like. So I've got 3 different coloring pieces that I did for you. I showed you the bunny and did some basic shading. Then we did some advanced color blending, which, by the way, look at that. It's actually turning out really cool. I love that effect. It's so cool. And it's not perfectly blended. I don't mind that, but it looks really cool. And that's definitely an ink technique that you can't get with water-based inks. How that kind of texture looks. And then the sweeping motion to be able to color for people who may not be able to color. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Please drop me a note if you're interested. Make sure you like and subscribe to either my YouTube channel, or make sure you like my business page and join my Facebook group. I have Fair's Craft Lair with Julia Fair, and I also have a group that is Fair's Craft Lair, so be looking for that. I do some different things with both of them, so make sure you're checking in with me, and I hope I get to see you and work with you soon. Thanks so much. Have a great day.